Welcome back to Crowdfund Idaho Live 2020. The Treefort Music Festival has involved the community since its very beginnings. Since 2010, when Lori Shandro gathered together some people who believed like her that we needed to expand the music scene in Boise. And now it has grown to a multidisciplinary arts event that I think it was over 400 bands, the last Treefort. I'm so excited to have with us Lori Shandro, founder and co-producer of the Treefort Music Festival, here with us tonight to talk about their investment crowdfunding campaign. Welcome, Lori.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited but not surprised that you are here in Idaho, where you base your operations.
Well, thank you. I'll have to say, finding the Idaho Women's Business Center, that really has been a tremendous support for getting the word out about crowdfunding in Idaho. So let's talk a little bit about your campaign. And can you tell us why you thought about crowdfunding? What was happening for the Treefort Music Festival that brought that out?
Well, the Treefort Music Festival, or Treefort Music Fest, as we call it, as I was listening to you talk, it really was quite a barn raising in the fact that there were just a few of us that had an idea about the fact that emerging artists really came through here a lot, and there were a lot of people here that wanted to experience them, and they just weren't being marketed to or marketed for, and they weren't being highlighted appropriately. And we didn't realize until we set foot into the idea of trying to make an organized attempt to bring them here, how many people in this community were both part of or lovers of live music. And so through that first experience, I think there was one person that made that entire first Treefort Music Fest happen that had actually done what they were doing during the festival for a living. The rest of us were none of us, there was only one person that year that came out of it with it being their full-time job. The rest of us, it was all of our hobby jobs, our passion projects. And that's really, I think, what made it special and what continues to make it special in that it was built for and by the community, not really in any sort of planned way. It was just a very collaborative effort by a community that wanted this to happen. And so when we had to postpone our festival in March, it happens the third week of March, and so we had to make a decision as to what the responsible thing to do was. We postponed it to this September, which is now come and gone, and I would say the majority of the expenses that we incur up until the festival actually happens are paying people to do what they do to make the festival happen. So when the festival came and went and we decided we needed to postpone it until next September, we were left with a very large gap. If we can't figure out how to pay people to get to next September to basically build the festival again, then we can't continue. So we talked about a lot of different ways to fill the gap. We definitely didn't think there was any one thing that could fix it. But one thing that we did know in this community is that there were a lot of people that really owned part of making the festival happen, and we were hoping that they wanted to own part of making the festival a continued venture. So WeFunder is a company that contacted us a few years ago, just wanting to talk to us about the new model that they'd created in equity crowdfunding. And it seemed like a really good fit at this time, where we felt like we had a large piece of our community that would be interested in helping the festival continue and thrive and owning a bit of it at the end, because I think they really always did own a large piece of it, even if not in paper.
So how has the community responded to this crowdfunding offering where they're able to become investors of a real piece of the fest?
It's been wonderful, and I listening to you again, I was thinking about different generations of women and the fact that such a small percentage of women have received investment or SBA loans, and I thought about it, and I think it's just because we haven't asked. It's wonderful for me to look at generations younger than me and to see not as much of a difference between the way women and men will ask for an investment or feel like that's something that they can and should do. So when we decided to launch our WeFunder crowdfunding campaign, there was a bit of trepidation of, can we ask this? And it was wonderful to see how many people in the community responded with a lot of enthusiasm and I think gratitude that they could be a part of helping continue something that they'd already been a part of helping create. So we were, I guess, wonderfully not surprised, but really glad that that support was there the way we had been told that it was.
And what have been some of the biggest challenges or surprises, positive or negative? I mean, people are probably wondering, what does it take to do something like this?
It takes a lot of information and a lot of looking inward at things that I think that we had been so busy working and making things happen that we hadn't actually taken the time to look at what we have created, not so much in theory, but on paper. What are the numbers? How do we explain to someone who doesn't know the inside of our organization why it is the way it is, what the numbers represent? And that was, it was a good project for us. We haven't been not transparent in the past because of a lack of desire. It takes a lot of time to pull that information together and understand how it needs to be represented to people in this kind of platform. And so that was both a challenge and an opportunity that we really, I think, learned a lot from.
Yeah, it can be a lot of work, but there's also, I've found that many of our clients, it's a transformational process for them personally, for their business. Was there any particular thing or moment that you could share about an aha, about something that you learned?
I would say that WeFunder, the company WeFunder, has been amazing. The people that they have to guide us through this process and to help us think about value and what we have built and what we have to offer. I think that what we learned through that process and what we realized has really helped us look at not only now, but maybe some of the opportunity that we've created for a better live music scene and an evolution of what can happen in the future, because we had to stop and look at where we are and how we got there and what it actually is. So I think that the aha moment that our core team has had recently is, what do we do with this? What can we do with this? And it's pretty exciting. It's, I think a lot of us have had to take a moment to stop and pause during these last 7 or 8 months. And as hard as it's been, I think there have been some good revelations and some reflections, and that would be one of them for us.
That's great to hear. I have worked with the team at WeFunder quite a bit, and I feel the same way. What advice would you have for someone who's feeling reluctant to do this? How can they get over that hesitation?
Well, if you're reluctant, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can not do it and fail, or you can do it and fail or not fail. There's so much support with the Idaho Women's Business Center and with your organization, which I'm so excited that you've taken this very unique approach to develop. And with companies like WeFunder, there's so much support for giving you the ability to learn and to find tools and to take something that you want to make happen and make it happen. And like I said, I kind of feel like the worst thing that can happen is maybe we don't do it and somebody else does. So that doesn't seem like much of an upside to me if we're not doing it.
That's really helpful. Now, what I think people might be wondering is, can they still invest? So where would they go if they want to become a Treefort Music Fest investor?
So if you wanted to go to, of course, you can always go to treefortmusicfest.com and it'll lead you there. But if you go to wefunder.com/Treefort, we are closing our first round of funding this Friday. So if you want to be a part of that initial group of investors, we're pretty excited about that first group of owners and some of the things that we are going to get to do together with and for them. So if you want to go there and learn more about the opportunities and where we are with that, we'll be closing that first round on Friday. So.
Excellent. I'm already a proud Treefort investor, so come join me and many others. You can also find a link on the crowdfundidaho.com page to the Treefort investment crowdfunding campaign. Lori, thank you so much for being here and helping our community understand the opportunity to crowdfund.
Well, and I really appreciate you taking the opportunity to point out all of the opportunity that exists. Some of us sometimes forget to look up and look around for help, so thanks for being there for that.
Great. We'll be back in a minute.